Hey, back with a new video. Kinda wanted to document this new milestone in my life. As you can tell from the title of the video, got into grad school. I'm going to grad school for social work. Going to social work school with the community organization practice method and having a concentration in global social work with refugees and immigrants. I've been wanting to go to this school. I'm not going to disclose what school, but I've been wanting to go to this school since I was a sophomore in college, which is what, about 3 years ago. So I've been wanting to go into this program and into this school since I was 20. I'm 23 now. I didn't really know what I wanted to do leading up to being 20 years old. I didn't really have a strong connection with academia. It was never, even when I was in middle school and elementary school, I never had like a real drive to do well in schools, very average student. And then when I got into high school, I would just continually just skip classes and just fail classes. And I think it was alright because my parents didn't know what grades I was getting. Like I never had a house phone, so they wouldn't get called. My parents never went to parent-teachers conferences, so I always had the mentality like, what does it matter? Like I can just finish the class in PM school and then it won't matter. I never had to go to summer school, fortunately, but that was just kind of the mentality I went into it with. I never went into college with like a practical idea of like, oh, I'm going to school so that I can get a career in something. Like I have a bachelor's in creative writing because I just figured like if I'm going into school for something, like I'd rather just walk away with something that I can apply into my everyday life rather than like having a degree that will define like the rest of my life. But with creative writing, like I can still continue to write poetry and write nonfiction essays no matter what period of my life I'm in. I think it's going to be more practical now than ever because I do want to go into migrant justice and global justice and environmental justice, and I think poetry and nonfiction essays and just kind of different modes of writing can connect with people more so than lectures, and just being able to tell stories and hearing other people's stories is powerful, and it can empower people more so than just providing resources. So I really look forward to finding a way to apply different ways of storytelling into whatever career path I end up going into. I guess different ways I'm going to prepare myself for it. I just got my acceptance 2 days ago. So what, from tomorrow, that'll be three days ago from when I'm posting it. And I don't know, besides getting certain things like a laptop, whatever, which isn't urgent, just kind of reading up, like, I don't know. I go onto this website called Africa's a Country, and it's just like, it's just like this pun on the idea that like people in the West have normalized the idea that like Africa is like one centralized place, and like people have a very fixed idea on it, and like I just get a lot of my news from there. And I've been just reading up a lot on how migrants are being like displaced in the Mediterranean right now, and like since Easter Sunday, 58 refugees have died in the Mediterranean Sea. It's just this way that politicians are using the pandemic to be able to completely seize any access for like African migrants to be able to come across from Libya. And like there's all this rhetoric about how like people carry over the virus, and like people need to keep out of Italy, and like it completely dismisses the idea of the maritime law, and like fits into this idea that like the outsider needs to keep out to protect like people in Italy. And like there's just a need to be able to speak out for people, and like the politicians will do what they like and use whatever current event is to shape it into this idea that like there's a need to keep people out, and that's just people's lives lost that no one will take regard for because they're a potential carrier of the virus, which is so inaccurate because like countries in Africa have been less likely and like less in numbers to have the capacity to like spread the virus, far less than anyone in North America and Europe. So it's how we speak about it, and it's how we address it that like sure it's necessary to sustain this idea of caution and that there is a risk, but there's also a need for recognition that like people shape this whichever way they want to continue shock doctrines where there's no room for deliberate like conversation, and there's no room for like backlash against like this fear mongering, and so they're completely breaking any ties that they have with like social justice and like providing like asylum for these refugees and immigrants. So I don't know, that's kind of like one aspect that kind of motivates me to go into this career. Down the line, I would like to leave the United States and practice somewhere else. I don't know if German's really going to help me out, or Russian. Probably need to touch up on Spanish down the line. But yeah, no, this is the main news I've gotten in the past 3 months that I've been waiting on. It's been a rigorous process because of the pandemic. Everything's been far more delayed than it normally would be. And I did apply for this program, another program. It was for my bachelor's in social work, but my GPA was significantly lower, partially because of my lack of knowing what I was doing. So I was tampering a lot more with like substance use and alcohol, and like, which kind of confused me a little more. I went to school in New Hampshire for a year, straight out of high school, and with school in New Hampshire, I mean, it's what really got me into the idea of like caring for the environment, because like I went to a school in Brooklyn, and I guess that was like nature deficit disorder. Like I was really out of touch with it, and then I started reading up a lot more about environmental justice, environmentalism, and how this planet really like is a lot more shit than it's made out to be, whether in your textbooks or in the media or whatever. I just recently read this quote that like you need to have like an idea of like the green, which is environmentalism, to have any like perspective on the red, which is anti-capitalism. And then once you have an idea of like anti-capitalism, I forget what's the rest of that quote.
You have a bug on your head.
Well, we can't touch it.
What?
Because don't
It's
touch
a
my face.
ladybug.
Yeah, don't touch it.
Andrew, you're leaving it?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave the ladybug.
Don't. Get off.
Why?
It's a big, huge one. Hey, lady, get out. Lady,
Is it on my eyelash?
No, it's on your forehead.
Oh, you got him? That's good. Those are good luck. Well, I think the moral of that is that, like, you need to have a grip on, like, the environment and, like, how it's completely destroyed to be able to address the issues with capitalism. Because capitalism essentially is extractivism, which is taking out all the resources for personal profit. I don't think that there is a need for capitalism, and that the extraction of resources which could be distributed to people is detrimental to humanity. And without extractionism, people would be able to have their own resources to grow like their own crops and all that. So poverty is very much tied into the idea that like people get exploited for, well, particularly in the global south, like for instance quinoa, like people are being forced to sell off all their quinoa in like South America. They can't use that crop to feed themselves, and so like that causes like man-made famines. So I think there's a deep tie between how environmentalism works to how global justice can take place, and how to get rid of capitalism in all and replace it with something better. But going to that school was a double-edged sword, because I did end up getting involved in a lot more substance use and alcoholism. But fortunately, I did come to a point where I did find myself in like a dead end, dropped out of school, didn't really have any prospects, but I had the support of like my closest friends, Mustafa and Justin at the time, who kind of like got me out of that fix, got me into, I did like, what is it, hard dojitsu for a month. It didn't really, it just kind of got me out of this rut. It was like karate, dojo and jiu-jitsu. Only did for about a month, but like, I don't know, it kind of sparked, like reignited something in me. Got back into community college, went to Hunter, and then, yeah, got into more humanitarian studies, learning about women in socialism, black masculinity, and like the role masculinity played in like American history for black populations, and trans and non-binary poetry, where I learned about trans rights. And I know I couldn't have gone to this point without the support and ever pushing, without my wonderful Veronica here, who has always brought out the best in me and encouraged me to push myself beyond where I thought I couldn't go. I couldn't have imagined myself at this point without her. And also without the support of a little bit, and some other very important friends to me, like my friend Tyler Muzio, who's incredible in all sorts of ways and very, very intelligent. And a very, very... Huh?
Don't forget
Bizwaz.
And your favorite sociology professor.
Yeah, there's a lot of faculty at Hunter who I couldn't have gone here without. Like Professor Frank, who I took a Drugs and Society course with, and Professor Bizwaz, who I took a non-white literature course. So I learned a lot about Jubilari and diaspora and the mestiza consciousness. But yeah, I'm really grateful for everyone who stuck around with me and saw something in me that I may not have seen in myself growing up. Yeah, I think this is just a new chapter in myself to challenge myself, and I'm looking forward to all the instances where I'll be completely stripped out of my comfort zone and be able to look at things in a way that I'm not familiar with, and just being able to think beyond myself and recognizing that like there's ever so much a need to have the ability to think beyond yourself and think about the bigger picture, and that like there is a need to recognize that it's not about yourself, you know, and to be able to use my privilege and position as a cisgendered white male heterosexual to like tell people's story and just support people in whichever way I can and give back to the community. I think I'm about done. I think it's just that like it's just like I've always had this like as a child just this like helplessness, knowing that like I grew up with many privileges and that like I didn't really feel like I deserved any of it. I'm very grateful to be able to dedicate the rest of my life to serving some cause instead of working for personal gain. And that's all I really want. And stay safe out there. Fight for what is right. Go out there and protest.